Hello, this is Dave, and this is an 80s micro reboot overdrive. Recording this on December 30th, 2015. So, my hope is that I'm going to have this thing posted on New Year's Eve. So, for those of you that don't have a party to go to and you want something to listen to, I hope that this will entertain you at least for a few minutes. What I want to talk to you about is a few things. One, I want to talk about our January podcast contest that's going on. We have a new blog up, so I want to make sure you understand that you can go check that out, but also there's some details there about some cool anime stuff that you could win. Another thing that I want to bring up is I want to talk about something that's going on our Twitter account, which is at 80s Reboot. A little thing called hashtag 80s Battle. And then also I want to talk about a movie that I recently had just seen that has been a very popular sci-fi kind of movie, but I wanted to give my mini review of it. And then there's one other little story I wanted to share around something that I did that was kind of fun with the t-shirts that we have that we buy through Southgate Media, and what I had done with a t-shirt that I had received for Christmas. So, with that, let's get started. Insert that bumper here.
Sword of omens, give me sight beyond sight.
Greetings, Starfighter. You are about to listen to the totally super awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast. Always remember, no matter where you go, there you are. Ready Player One.
Okay, true believers. In case you didn't know, we have a blog now. It's only got one entry in it, so there's not a lot to read, but what the first entry is pretty important to us. And if you want to find us on that blog, go to southgatemediagroup.com, click the blog section, look for the 80s Reboot blog, and just click that little icon, and it'll bring you to the entries that we're going to have there. I'm hoping to post some stuff on a frequent basis that I don't get a chance to talk about on the podcast, or just stuff that I find interesting. But what's up there right now is we have a little thing called a January contest. So what we want you to do is go in there to iTunes, give us a positive review. Of course, I'm hoping for 5 stars, but if you don't feel like you want to give us that, then, no harm, no foul, but please, please, please give us 5 stars. But what I want you to do is also write in some comments and be creative with it. Have fun with it. And what's going to happen is that our co-hosts are going to review all of the reviews that we had received from this point on through the third week of January, pick our best one, and the person that we pick is going to receive a nerd block that I had received, which was in May. So it's all about anime. So it's all the details are there in the blog, so go check that out. There's even instructions on how to leave a review in case you don't know how to do that. So I encourage you to check it out. There's really cool things in this anime nerd block. The reason why I have this as an extra is because honestly, I'm really just not into anime. So there's a lot of, the genre I'm not that familiar with. But I know there's so many of you that are. And there's some of you that just want cool stuff. And this definitely falls into that criteria. It's got a t-shirt. It's got one of those Funko Pop figures. So a lot of good stuff in there. So please go in there, give us an iTunes review, and be creative with it. Have fun with it. We may select you, and we'll be letting you know at the end of January if you won. Really easy on your part. Just a few minutes to leave a review. Harder on us because we have to pick just one. So that's the January contest, and that's also where our blog is. So please continue to check that blog out. I'm going to do my best to make sure you have some fresh content to take a look at and make it interesting to go and stay current with what we have going on. The other thing that's happening on our Twitter feed, started doing this thing called 80s Battle. So it's hashtag 80s Battle. And what I've been doing is I've been selecting two iconic 80s figures, or things from movies or toys or commercials or music people, and mashing them together. And what I do is I've been posting the pictures and giving the option of either retweeting if you prefer one versus liking on another. So there's actually quite a few of them that are out there, and to give some examples of what's already been posted, for instance, the one that's out there today is you retweet for Peter Venkman, or you like for Carl Spackler. So it's Ghostbusters against Caddyshack. In this particular case, the retweets for Peter Venkman have 10, and Carl Spackler has 7. So if you feel like Carl Spackler should definitely be beating out Peter Venkman, you should go in there and make sure you hit like on that tweet. Another one that I had posted earlier today was Lost Boys against Fright Night. So of course I'm picking on the vampires for 80s movies. In this particular case, 5 retweets for Lost Boys, 2 likes for Fright Night. So once again, if you're a Fright Night fan, go in there, hit like on that tweet. So that's how that works. And I'm going to do my best to make sure we have some good 80s battles out there. And if you're on Twitter a lot, by all means, tweet a battle that you'd like to see posted, and I will, I'll put that together and get that out there. So that is Twitter for you. All right. So next up is a quick story. What had happened was on Southgate Media Group, we started having a partnership with a website called TeePublic. You may have heard me talk about it on a few of our shows where I'm promoting a certain shirt that I saw on that website. First off, there is just gobs of really cool shirts. So I encourage you to go to TeePublic or even go to Southgate Media Group and look at the shirts that have been picked out for the 80s Reboot feed, or even all the Southgate Media shirts. There are a lot of cool ones, and all the podcasters have picked out shirts that they're helping to promote. One of the ones that I picked out for 80s Reboot is this one that's called Bleep of the 80s. What happened was there was a Black Friday sale, and what I ended up doing was I ended up placing an order for one of our Twitter feed people that it was having a problem with them ship a shirt overseas, but at the same time I ordered one for myself. So I ordered the Bleeps of the 80s for myself, and when I had received it, I didn't tell anybody in my house that I had ordered this for myself. So I had taken a box, wrapped it up, put it underneath the tree, wrote my name on it, and then on Christmas morning, I open it up and I'm telling, my kids and my wife, hey, thanks, this is exactly the shirt I wanted, acting all really surprised. And they're all looking at it like, I have never seen that shirt before in my life. Who got that for you? And of course, I'm playing dumb, like, well, you guys did, because there was no other tag on it. It just had my name. So I had really a lot of fun with it. And it was really kind of, kind of torturous at the same time of my family, but that's the kind of humor I have. So if you ever get a chance to do that kind of thing for yourself, I highly recommend it, just because it kind of freaks out the family because they don't know where this mystery gift came from. But that was a lot of fun. So the last thing, and this is usually the one that gets everybody gasping, is when I admit to the fact that I had never seen the movie They Live. And actually, I just saw this last week. So the movie released 1988, John Carpenter. And I knew about the movie. I knew it existed. I knew that it was a big deal for a lot of sci-fi fans, a lot of 80s fans, and very iconic for the fact of, the big line that's in it. Of course, I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum, and I knew that that line existed. And I knew it existed in that movie. I just never seen it in its complete context of the movie. I knew Roddy Piper was involved in it. I knew it was a John Carpenter movie, and I had the general premise of the movie. I just never really given it time to watch. And it's not like I was actively not trying to see it. It's just one of those things that I'd never made the opportunity to see it. So in this case, the timing was right. I had saw that it was on Comcast, and I looked at one of those things where it showed the other times, and so I flagged it to record on its next time that it was airing, so that it was on my DVR. So then once it was on the DVR, then it was kind of there, and it was ready for me to check out and watch. So like I said, wasn't actively not watching it. And in fact, I'd wanted to see it ever since there was a podcast that Roddy Piper was doing. A lot of it was with the wrestling stars back when just wrestling stars in general. But there was one that he did with John Carpenter, and they were talking about the experience of making They Live Together. And it was actually a very well done discussion between the two of them, and you could tell there was some admiration there, and there was some discussion around why John Carpenter picked Roddy Piper for that particular role. So it's very interesting, and when I post this, what I'm going to do is I'll see if I can dig that out from within the internet and also post a link to it, because I think it's good. It's a good listen. And unfortunately, Roddy Piper's no longer with us, so we're really not going to get any new material from him. So we should really just enjoy what he's already given us. And for those of us that like Piper's Pit, there's plenty of material there. Now back to the movie, They Live. I want to be completely fair about it. There are some negative aspects to this movie for me. One of them, the main character, John Nada, he's a construction worker. He gets to Los Angeles and unemployed. And I get all that, and I understand it kind of helps set the premise of, where where the main area is going to be taking place of, like in this tent city type of deal. So I get all that, but there's really no backstory that really makes John Nada relatable for me. There was nothing that had told me, why was he unemployed? Why was he a drifter? Why should I be rooting for him? So that's really the negative aspect for the movie for me. I really didn't find a relatable character in the main character. But that's really the only bad thing I have to say about this movie. The good stuff, there's plenty of it. First off, very iconic 80s movie. You've got obviously Roddy Piper there. You've got the the flowing hair. That is John Nada. You've got this really cool thing where he's got to put sunglasses on to see the aliens. And you get to the point where the fight between him and Frank, where it lasts just way too long. It's so over the top that it's almost over enjoyable for the fact that this fight just never seems to end. And all it is John Nada wanting Frank to put the sunglasses on, and they've got to have this big, long, epic battle that just never seems to end, just to get those sunglasses on. I mean, and I don't know any other movie that's done that like that. So I think it's really cool. Big thumbs up for that particular occurrence in that movie, and finally I get it. I when people are talking about what was happening, I think that is just really great. And then an added bonus is knowing back in the 80s we had a lot of the materialistic stuff going on. You had the Madonna Material Girl kind of thing, the yuppie type of influence that was going on all around the popular culture. So it was like in to be these young urban professionals and have all the toys and all the gizmos. And the movie They Live was able to give us a bit of a social commentary on that, where you had the aliens that were trying to give us those subliminal messages that it was our duty or our job to buy more stuff and consume and conform, with all those different messages. So, good job, to, being able to pull that, that social commentary off at the time that it needed it, which would have been in the late 80s. So I think that works really well. Probably would have worked a lot better had I seen it back then. And it's really a great byproduct of that decade, because it was very well done for when when that type of stuff and that materialistic kind of vibe was going on. So I think it works well for the 80s. If you're going to be revisiting it, I think realizing that it is a byproduct of 80s goodness, that is the part that works for me, because I was around during that time frame and I knew what was going on, and I understand the message that that movie was trying to convey. So I don't know if it would come across as well for somebody that's younger. But I think it's an enjoyable movie. I really love the third act that had gone on, where they're in the TV station and getting all the information about the message that is going to convey, that's being broadcast out from LA, via the TV stations. So it's really kind of cool. In that last battle where he was able to destroy the satellite dish and then also give the aliens the finger, was really a very cool end to that movie. And then at that point everyone realized that all these people that were around, that were the yuppies or the rich or the high society people, were these aliens and kind of looked like skeletons. So that was really kind of cool. And even at the fact that the last scene was the woman that's having the sex with the alien, and then she realizes, at the last moment there, that it's an alien. So great way to end that movie. I think John Carpenter did an awesome job with it. Like I said, my only negative vibe is I really didn't have a connection with the main character. But besides that small little fact, realizing the social commentary that was being done by the movie, the epic fight, line in the bank, that Roddy Piper delivers, it worked for me. It was a good movie. I honestly, I'd watch it again. So I think that is a good vote of confidence that I like the movie, because if it was one of those that I watched and I was wondering, it was a waste of time, then, this would be sounding much different. And, it'd be much like my review of the Star Wars Holiday Special, where I said I wanted my hour and 20 minutes back. In this case, that's not what's happening. In fact, I'm willing to invest more time into rewatching They Live at some time in the future. So if you get a chance, you haven't watched it, I'd recommend it. And this kind of falls in line with a show idea that Scott and I had talked about on our brainstorming podcast, where it was talking about the gaps in pop culture. So this would go in line with that kind of thing. And this is just my mini review just to put out there and kind of get a vibe for what that might be like for you listening. If you are a big fan of They Live and you're surprised that I haven't seen it before last week, by all means, throw me a tweet at 80s Reboot and yell at me, or whatever it is that you want to say, or if there's something you didn't agree with about my commentary, by all means, email or tweet. I'm all about listening to your feedback. So with that, I wanted to just get those quick stories out there for you, give you something to listen to as you roll into 2016. On behalf of everybody at the 80s Reboot Overdrive team and Southgate Media Group, we wish you a very happy new year, and hopefully you get some good resolutions going for 2016 and you stick to them. If you get into 80s resolutions, then maybe you should fight for your right to party. So with that, thank you for reliving the 80s with me. And this is Dave. And don't forget to participate in our January contest that you can read about on our blog, southgatemediagroup.com, and choose our blog from the other blogs, which is 80s Reboot blog. Good night. We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.